Welcome back to my channel. This will be a short one, I promise you today, and we're going to discuss loading local files. Now, I've already discussed the generalities of it, and it's covered in a YouTube video. It's also covered in an article I published, and I'm going to refer to that in just one second. But today it's specifically about how we can accelerate loading local files, because if anyone of you have tried loading local files, even simple HTML files, there is a nasty lag with the new web browser control, and there is one thing that we can particularly do that seems to have a pretty good impact on the load time. So let's just very quickly look at the article, and as you can see here, I go on content from local file, and everything you need to know is there. And in reality, what you need to know is to pass the path of the file you want to load, you first have to prefix it with this https://msaccess, okay, which is what I have up here. So you always have to prefix the path and file name with this for the new web browser to load it. If you don't, it will not work. I mentioned here that there's an issue with slow load times, and this is particularly what we're going to be discussing today, is a potential remedy, or at least something that will aid a little bit. Now, let's just quickly open a database that loads local content. And what this file is doing, this web browser will read this file here. And just to show you how simple this is all the HTML there is in that page, 11 lines. And in reality, there's only one page, one line of interest. I have a function here, but we don't even need it. We can actually even remove it to simplify things even further. So it really is just a div with an h1 tag in it, and that is it. So there's nothing complex in this. Let's take a look at it. So if we load it, look at the lag. Okay, that's how long it took to load a very, very simple, that should load instantaneously. Okay, so let's get rid of that for a second. And look, if you look how fast it renders in Edge natively, instantaneous. So there's something going on internally with Access. Well, the solution, or at least a potential part of a solution to fix this, is to change and edit the Windows host file, and to tell it that the msaccess, right, the prefix that we're adding, msaccess here, to tell the host file that it's local. So I know that a lot of this is gibberish to some of you. It's not a big deal. How do we do it? Easy. On Windows, I know where it is. You go in the C, then you go into Windows, you go into System 32, you go into Drivers, you go into the etc. In that folder, you will find a file called hosts. You will edit it in Notepad, and what you're going to do, wherever there's this symbol, it's a commented line. So none of these count, and as you can see, they give you a couple examples of how it can be set up. We want to do the same thing, but for msaccess. So we're going to come down on a blank line. It doesn't have a pound symbol, and we're going to enter in our value. So for the local computer, use 127.0.1. Let me move my cursor out of the way. And then you do a space, and you give it the domain, msaccess. And you save it. And as you're going to see, my editor of choice is Notepad++. And it's already telling me that the host file is locked, and that just editing it doesn't work in normal mode. So what it is offering me to do is you actually have to edit it in an administrative mode, and Notepad is offering to do that for me. So it's going to close momentarily, reopen in administrative mode, and now I can save it. Otherwise, you'd have to launch, let's say, Notepad. Let's just look at that quickly. Notepad, and you have to right click and run as administrator. Okay, and then what you could do, very similarly, you can go File, Open, you can come here, come in and find the host file, and you could make your edit that way. But you have to be running it as the administrator mode. Once you've made that change, now the computer, whenever it has that domain, that protocol, it's going to see in the host file that it's a local computer. It just speeds up the process instead of trying to look it up in the domain name server and things like that. So now if we go back to our database and we close this guy out and relaunch it, the load is faster. Is it significantly faster? It's noticeably faster. So just keep that in mind. It's a very simple edit. Sadly, you have to do it on every single computer, but it isn't a complex one. And if you're in an enterprise level, this can actually be deployed quite easily through automation and whatnot. So depending on your scenario, it may be simpler or more complex to deploy, but it's a single line in the host file, and you're going to improve the overall performance of the web browser control for loading local files. Also, do note, I sent an email to the dev team with regards to this because, in my opinion, this is not something that we should need as developers to be canoodling and making these changes in host files ourselves. This should have been part of the web browser control. It should be part of Office taking care of this internally. However they do it, I really don't care, but we shouldn't need to go editing individual host files like this. So I'm hoping that in an update at some point, this will automatically be taken care of and we'll see an improvement across the board. But for the time being, it's as simple as editing a single text file and adding a single line, 127.0.0.1 space, and do MS Access, save. And that's it, guys. Have a great day. If you don't mind, like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Were you aware of this? Had you come across it before? Let me know, and we'll see you in the next video.